Good morning and welcome to the Tri-County, Alabama chapter of Links Incorporated's 10th annual Youth Explosion. I am DeAndre Oden, a senior at Leeds High School. Our student team, along with the ladies of the Tri-County chapter, have been working diligently for the past 6 months to bring you this event. Our goal is to break that wall so we can enhance our ability to think critically about personal choices, future ambitions, emerging community health, and racial concerns. We are a collective power that individually and collectively impacts our peers, family, and community, and the world we live in by making a personal commitment to keep rising. Our theme is breaking barriers and keep rising. We have a set of wall-crushing workshops, presenters, and door prizes. We have peer representation from Jefferson, Shelby, and St. Clair counties. So let's break some barriers, move forward, and get ready to engage and explore tough areas as we continue to keep rising.
Good morning. It is indeed a great pleasure for me today to welcome you on the 10th annual Youth Explosion hosted by the Tri-County chapter of the Links Incorporated and students from Bessemer City, Fairfield, Holy Family Cristo Rey, Hoover, Huffman, Indian Springs, Jackson-Olin, and Leeds High Schools. I am Jordan Hudson, a senior at Indian Springs School. Our goal for today is to expand our toolkit for breaking down the walls so we can enhance our ability to think critically about personal choices, future ambitions, emerging community health, and race concerns. We are a collective of power that can individually and collectively impact our peers, family, community, and the world by making a personal commitment to keep rising. I'm very pleased to see so many of my peers in the audience because we cannot talk about sustainable change without our active involvement. So welcome. And to provide expertise to those areas mentioned, we have a distinguished group of panelists, guest speakers in the areas for judicial law, law enforcement, finance, health, and international awareness. Again, welcome, and let's gain some knowledge to continue to keep rising.
To our guest speakers, panelists, presenters, and all participants, good morning. I'm Rhonda Allen, President of the Tri-County, Alabama chapter of the Links Incorporated. On behalf of our 47 members, it is indeed an honor to welcome you to our 11th Youth Empowerment Summit. The Tri-County chapter is committed to empowering youth in the Tri-County area of Jefferson, Shelby, and St. Clair counties. The fact that so many participants are joining virtually serves as a reminder of just how important our work is to the communities that we serve. This year, we are proud to partner with several talented youth in our area to present this summit. These outstanding youth are indeed our future, and we are so proud of their hard work, dedication, and commitment to planning this event. Break barriers and keep rising is a most appropriate theme, given the current health crisis, economic crisis, and political turmoil that impacts our students. We would like to acknowledge the hard work and tireless efforts of our Services to Youth Committee. And hats off to Mrs. Barbara Allen and Ms. Samuetta Hill-Drew for their stellar leadership. So please, prepare yourself to be challenged, excited, and inspired at this year's Youth Empowerment Explosion Summit.
Good morning. My name is Don Rhodes. I am a student at Fairfield High Preparatory School. I have the honor of introducing our opening speaker. I have had the privilege of hearing on another occasion, and you are in for a treat. Our speaker, Mr. Barry McNeely, has special insight into the civil rights movement in both the city and the surrounding area. Mr. McNeely guides tours all over the state of Alabama, but his hometown, Birmingham, has a special place in his career. He loves this magnificent city with all its diversity emerging from its industrial past. In addition to introducing his guests to world-famous historical sites of Birmingham as a lecture guide, he does walking tours and takes visitors of the city and historical neighborhoods and brings them along on the historical path of the American Civil Rights Movement. Mr. McNeely is a product of the Birmingham City School System, where he is not only a graduate from Parker High School, he teaches social studies and he is a graduate of Miles College, where he was assigned as a student intern that began his career at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. In completion of his internship at the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute led him to being offered a position as the Institute's education assistant. During his tenure in the Institute's education division, Mr. McNeely established its outreach program, expanding the narrative of the Institute throughout Alabama and beyond. While serving as an education assistant, Mr. McNeely was also responsible for the founding of Birmingham Juneteenth celebration. Currently, Mr. McNeely serves as a program coordinator for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute Legacy Youth Leadership Program, an education program where teenagers are trained to be docents for the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute. As a historian, Mr. McNeely has been featured on local television and radio stations. Mr. McNeely has also been featured nationally on Lifetime Television's The Balancing Act and C-SPAN's American History Television. I present to you our opening speaker, Mr. Barry McNeely.
Greetings. My name is Barry McNeely. I'm an educator with the Birmingham Civil Rights Institute and the Birmingham City School System. Today, I'd like to talk to you about the history that is Birmingham, Alabama. As I talk about that history today, the one thing that I would like you to remember after you forget the facts is none of what happened in the city of Birmingham, in the state of Alabama, in the United States of America, and the wider world in terms of civil and human rights, equality and dignity. None of that, absolutely none of it, was inevitable. It took people willing to break the chain of discrimination and oppression. It took people willing to brave all sorts of conditions to be able to flip the world upside down and create a world out of the world that they lived in, that we all live in today. And in the words of the great Lauryn Hill, consequence is no coincidence. So I'm going to start out with a street in Birmingham, Alabama. That street is in a community known as Smithfield. Smithfield is the second oldest of the African-American neighborhoods in Birmingham. In the community of Smithfield, you will find the oldest African-American library in the state of Alabama. In the community of Smithfield, you will find the first school for African-Americans in the city of Birmingham, which was Tuggle Institute. In the community of Smithfield, you will find the oldest four-year high school for African-Americans in the city of Birmingham. The community is full of powerful and transformative history. But the street that we're going to go to right now, it's called Center Street. And that is the street that started everything. As we look down this placid street, it belies the history that took place here. As we look down this street, We are reminded that Birmingham was founded in 1871, practically because it contained the three major ingredients to the production of steel, and that's going to be limestone, iron ore, and coal. But as we look down the street, we also realize that in 1871, Birmingham was not legally segregated. Birmingham was a de facto segregated city. Birmingham does not become segregated until 1921. And those laws, when they were passed, they were designed to separate every aspect of social and economic life that existed in the city of Birmingham. And as we think about Birmingham and its growing out of this steel industry, we're reminded that Birmingham produced so much steel that it was once referred to as the Pittsburgh of the South. However, Birmingham's more enduring nickname is the Magic City. And when we think of the term Magic City, we trace the history back to the idea that so many people moved into Birmingham in such a short period of time that it was said that the city grew up overnight like magic. And when we talk about the influx of human beings that moved into this city, a major part of that immigration was African Americans who were leaving the bonds of agricultural labor. They were leaving behind the tenant farming and the sharecropping that the end of the Civil War had left them with for an industrial city. And so they came to this city in very great numbers. And it's interesting that they came in such great numbers that they are part of the reason Birmingham is referred to as the Magic City. Now, as we look down this street, in 1936, a man by the name of Eugene Theophilus Connor runs for the commission of Birmingham. And he's going to win that position. And in 1937, Connor, more affectionately known as Bull Connor, is going to take the reins of the city of Birmingham as the Commissioner of Public Safety. Now, when he does, he wants to make sure that Birmingham is segregated at every turn. He wants Birmingham to create a man-made lake. And this lake is going to serve as a buffer between the white community in Birmingham and the Black community in Birmingham. And although the Commissioner of Public Safety had a tremendous amount of power, they weren't able to do the man-made lake because of all the things that Birmingham did have in terms of resources. Birmingham didn't have the water for it. In fact, we pump our water in from the Cahaba River. So they didn't give him a lake, but they did give him this street that we're looking at. This street, Center Street, was divided. And along the left side of this street, white people could live there. And along the right side of this street, Black people could live there. Now, we're familiar with Plessy versus Ferguson and the United States Supreme Court decision that handed down the doctrine separate but equal. And as we look at a street that says residents on the left side white, residents on the left side Black, it sounds like separate but equal. But we have to pull back and consider that in Birmingham, the housing ordinances only gave the Black community 11% of the residential territory of the city. Those Black citizens made up 43% of the overall population. And so you're having a housing crisis. And as you're having this housing crisis, this left side of the street, a lot of times the houses there would be empty. And they would be empty because those people who had white supremacist feelings, they looked at the left side of the street as something that was dishonorable now. Because if you think about it, when you woke up in the morning, if you were a white supremacist on Center Street, you'd go outside to get your milk and your eggs and your newspaper, and you'd look across the street and you would see a Black person doing the same thing. And so you don't feel that superior. And what would happen is that when they could, the white supremacists who lived on the left side of the street would move away and leave these lots and these homes vacant. Well, there were two prominent Black businessmen during this time period. One was an attorney. His name was Arthur Shores. And the other was an insurance man. His name was John Drew. And what Arthur Shores and John Drew would do is they would purchase lots and houses on the left side of the street. You see, the ordinance didn't say anything about who owned the house. It only designated who could live in the house. And they purchased these houses with the hope that one day they would be able to have an equal community and also be able to recoup their investment. But when we talk about the American Civil Rights Movement and civil rights battleground cities, such as Birmingham, all of those cities had something in common. You could look and find that there was a woman who was responsible as the major catalyst. And in Little Rock, with the Little Rock Nine, you had Daisy Bates. In Montgomery, with the Montgomery bus boycott, you had Claudette Colvin and Rosa Parks. And Birmingham's no different. Birmingham had Mary Means Monk. Mary Means Monk was a school teacher who set her eyes on the left side of the street. She wanted to live in this house. And she hired attorney Arthur Shores to sue the city of Birmingham to allow her the right to move into this house. And after she purchased the house, Arthur Shores took this case, which was Monk versus Birmingham, and he won that case. And on December the 18th, 1949, Mary Means Monk moves into her home. After 3 days living in her new home, her home was bombed. Mary Means Monk wasn't killed, but she also wasn't intimidated. Mary Means Monk repaired the house and moved back into it. Well, her house was bombed again. And Mary Means Monk, being Mary Means Monk, this doesn't cause her to run away or to leave her house behind. She has the house repaired and moves right back in defiantly. Well, the house is bombed a third time, and Mary Means Monk hadn't changed, and she wasn't going anywhere. But what's most important is her dogged determination to stay in her home gave courage and inspiration to other African Americans, and they began to move across to the left side of the street. And as they did, the Knights of the White Camellia and the Ku Klux Klan began to bomb these homes in an attempt to scare people from exercising their constitutional right of living in these homes. But it didn't deter them. Even though these bombs are going to number eventually over 50 bombings in this one neighborhood. Now, as we go to the right side of the street, we see a church. And this church behind these trees, that is Our Lady, Queen of the Universe Catholic Church. Well, the Catholic Church in Birmingham is going to insert itself into the civil rights activity going on. And they're going to insert themselves by opening a hospital in Birmingham that would treat people without regards to the color of their skin. And that was very important because previously you would have to go to Hillman Hospital where you were treated in the basement. And there was only one hospital in all of Birmingham that Black women could go to and deliver their babies. And so the Catholic Church opens a hospital. And they also open a high school and an elementary school that educate without regards to the color of skin. Well, this is going to cause the Ku Klux Klan to plant a bomb next to this church. And the bomb that was planted here was so powerful that the Birmingham Police Department had to call in assistance from the Alabama National Guard to dispose of that bomb. Now, as we continue up this corridor, which is Center Street, we see another church on the left-hand side of the street. And this church is First Congregational Christian Church. As we look at First Congregational, we realize that it is a very special church. It was a special church because out of the over 700 churches that existed in Birmingham, Alabama, in fact, Birmingham was called the city of churches, there was only one church out of the over 700 that had an interracial congregation, and that was First Congregational. And you might think that it was on the street between white people and Black people, and that's why it was the only church in Birmingham that had an interracial congregation. But you'd also have to consult the law at the time. And the law at the time stated that Blacks could not enter a white place of worship and that whites could not enter a Black place of worship. In Birmingham, Alabama, despite the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, there was no separation of church and state. The government could tell you where and where not to worship. And there was no ability to peaceably assemble like the First Amendment. And when Bull Connor was asked about this, Bull Connor's response was, we have our own law in Birmingham, Alabama. As we look to the right side of the street, we see the home of attorney Arthur Shores. Arthur Shores is going to be successful with the Monk case, but Arthur Shores is also going to partner with legendary Thurgood Marshall and take on the University of Alabama and sue to allow its first Black student, Arthurine Lucy, to attend classes at the University of Alabama. Arthur Shores is going to be a very prominent civil rights attorney. And when the 1963 integration of the Birmingham City Schools takes place, it was assumed that Arthur Shores was the attorney of record on the case, although he wasn't. But the assumption was enough for the Ku Klux Klan to come and bomb this house. They put a bomb next to the garage that collapsed the bedroom above it. And the Birmingham News published a story about the bombing that included the fact that no one was injured in the bombing. I should say for the daughters of Arthur Shores, Barbara and Helen, their dog was killed. And that was something that they never forgot. But at any rate, when the Ku Klux Klan read that no one was injured, they came back and they bombed this house a second time. They put a bomb around the front door. When this bomb went off, it injured Arthur Shores' wife. Now, in a miracle of sorts, out of over 50 bombings in this one corridor, there was never anybody killed directly in those bombings until that second bombing. And on that second bombing, there was a mass uprising where people were ready to fight. And they called on the Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth to come and try to restore peace and order. And white supremacists on the site thought that it was time to take Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth out. And when Shuttlesworth arrived, they fired at who they thought was Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth, but it was actually a 21-year-old veteran by the name of James Coley. And James Coley was shot and killed in this street corner during this tumultuous event that made this place become known as Dynamite Hill. And throughout the civil rights community, people started to refer to Birmingham as Bombingham. Now, I want to remind and bring back the idea that none of what happened in Birmingham was inevitable. It took courage, it took faith, it took the adhering to the leadership of Fred Shuttlesworth and Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King and Reverend Ralph Abernathy and the Children's Campaign. It took thousands of young people to leave their schools and march into history to change the conditions that existed in Birmingham, in Alabama, and in the United States of America. And as we talk about the Children's Campaign, I want to take you to 16th Street Baptist Church and Kelly Ingram Park. Kelly Ingram Park is going to become the site of the largest, at the time, civil rights demonstration in United States history. When Fred Shuttlesworth and Dr. King came together, they planned something called Project C. The C stood for confrontation. They were supposed to confront just injustices, racism, and bigotry wherever they could find it. The largest part of Project C, however, would have been D-Day. And D-Day was May 2nd. D-Day stood in short for Demonstration Day. And on Demonstration Day, thousands of young people came down to this area. When these demonstrators came into this park, they were faced with the Birmingham Fire Department using high-pressured water hoses to disperse them. But most notably, they were faced with the Birmingham Police Department. And the Birmingham Police Department employed the use of dogs. Here we have an iconic image that's been taken from an Associated Press photograph of the event. Now, this photograph circled the world. And when this circled the world, it made stops in the Kremlin, but it also made stops at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, where President Kennedy said that this made him sick. And what he did as a result of this is he called for the Civil Rights Bill. And this Civil Rights Bill was going to be more sweeping and more comprehensive than anyone proposed to that date and that time. Although Dr. King is pushing for these changes and Fred Shuttlesworth are pushing for these changes, they have to have President Kennedy to call for legislation to cement these changes. And these changes were cemented in stone with the signing of the Civil Rights Bill Of course, it was signed after the death of President Kennedy, when it was signed by President Lyndon Johnson. The next thing we're going to talk about would be the 16th Street Baptist Church. The 16th Street Baptist Church has a very long history, almost as long as the city of Birmingham itself. Founded in 1873, it was the first Black Baptist church in the city of Birmingham. They moved to this location shortly thereafter, and they built a wonderful, ornate facility. This facility was so nice that it incurred the wrath of some segregationist whites in Birmingham, and they demanded that this church be torn down. They tore that church down, but the congregation was able to build another church that is the church that we see today. It became known as Everybody's Church because of the size of the church. Also, the location is right in the middle of downtown Birmingham. So a lot of people would come here to hear people like Mary McLeod Bethune or W.E.B. Du Bois, any notable person that came to speak to the African-American community came to Everybody's Church to do that. This is going to lay the groundwork for the Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights motivation to ask to use their sanctuary as a meeting place during the movement. Reverend Cross agrees, and Reverend Cross opens the doors of 16th Street Baptist Church. When he does, it becomes targeted. In 1957, in Arkansas, the governor, Orville Faubus, warned that if schools were integrated in his state, that blood would run in the streets. In 1963, the governor of Alabama repeated Governor Faubus's warning. But it was a warning, but it was also a veiled threat. They said that if schools were integrated in Birmingham, Alabama, blood would run in the streets. Now, that warning was not heeded. And as Shuttlesworth and Arthur Shores pushed forward with court cases that would eventually open up the doors to Birmingham City Schools, to Birmingham's African-American students, there were Ku Klux Klansmen who were planning their retaliation to that very event. Led by Dynamite Bob Chambliss, the members of the Ku Klux Klan got together and they constructed a bomb, which they brought here to this church, and they planted it underneath a staircase that used to be here on this exterior. That next morning at 10:22 a.m. on Sunday, the bomb went off. And when the bomb went off, the force of that bomb went through where this window is into the women's lounge, where children were gathering for a Youth Day performance. Those children included Sarah Collins, Addie Mae Collins, Denise McNair, Cynthia Wesley, and Carol Roberson. Sarah Collins was blinded in the blast, injured grievously, but more, she lost her sister, Addie Mae. And as these children were killed, their funeral was held, and when Dr. King preached the funeral of 3 of these little girls, Dr. King eulogized them as angels of change. Now that change can be seen in part in this church. There's a window inside of this church that's called the Wales window. It was donated by people from the United Kingdom. And this goes to show how far-reaching the effect of this blast was. After this blast, people began to move forward. People began to see the overall evil that was involved in the segregationists and their cause. And a number of those people who might have been on the fence, as Dr. King called them, the liberals, they stepped off of the fence and they joined the movement and they pushed for the changes that we now enjoy today as a result of what takes place here at this historic church. And as we come to an end, I want to go back to the idea that to this day, Birmingham looks at its history as something to motivate the rest of the world. And we look and we see Kelly Ingram Park, which is a part of the new Birmingham Civil Rights National Monument. And right here on the corner of 16th Street and 6th Avenue, we see the memorial, the Four Spirits. These young people had no idea that what they were doing was going to change the entire world. But every day, we have the opportunity to make the world a better place, just like they did. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Imani Ward. I attend Bessemer City High School, and today I will be introducing you the Honorable Judge Agnes Chappell. Judge Agnes Chappell, being the first Black female to practice law in Jefferson County, Alabama, has been in the legal profession for over 40 years. She is a circuit judge for the 10th Judicial Circuit Domestic Relations Division in Jefferson County, Alabama. She has served as a municipal court judge for the city of Birmingham, where she presided over the misdemeanor and domestic violence court, the first therapeutic court for the city of Birmingham. She has vast experience in family and juvenile delinquency law, having served as a senior trial referee at the Jefferson County Family Court for over 15 years, and as a partner in the law firm of Brown, Chappell, and Burrell. At the law firm of Brown, Chappell, and Burrell, she handled cases of family law and other civil matters. Judge Chappell has a special interest in protecting and improving the quality of life for young people, as shown by her more than 19 years of service at the Jefferson County Family Court. She mentors high school and college students and young lawyers. Her mentoring is structured and is with much thought and purpose, as evidenced by her association with 2 learning centers. She participates in the City of Birmingham Shadow and Executive Program as well. In this program, she allows high school students who are interested in the legal profession to experience day-to-day work in the courtroom. She has also instituted a program called Goals and Justice Tour, where various high schools are invited to have a long day experience with the justice system. On this tour, the schools get to participate in a mock trial, visit the jail, the sheriff's office, talk to the judges, district attorney, and the sheriff of the 10th Judicial Circuit. They also explore various other careers in the justice system. Judge Chappell also developed the program Haiti Surge, which seeks to empower children in Haiti to enjoy a quality life. Its mission is to provide resources for dental and healthcare and education so that they may graduate from primary and secondary school. The program emphasizes the development of economic skills to become entrepreneurs in Haiti. She is a graduate of Shays Valley High School, the University of Alabama, and the University of Alabama School of Law.
Hello, my name is Dakaria Holyfield. I am a senior at Holy Family Cristo Rey Catholic High School, and I will be introducing Sheriff Mark Petway. Sheriff Mark Petway has diligently served as a law enforcement officer for over 27 years. On Tuesday, November 6th, 2018, he made history as the first African-American elected sheriff of Jefferson County. Now as sheriff, he is committed to bridging the gap between law enforcement and the community and making Jefferson County an overall better place to live for everyone. Since being elected, Sheriff Petway has implemented several programs to serve the community, including the Renewed for Reentry program, Summer with the Sheriff, Books Not Bullets, and a mobile app to better connect with the community. He also works with public and private organizations to provide inmates with entry-level skills for employment training. In an effort to reduce recidivism, he is an advocate for education.
Now, let me introduce to you the Honorable Judge Marshall Jackson Hatcher. Marshall Jackson Hatcher, a Birmingham, Alabama native, is a circuit court judge for the civil divisions of Jefferson County, Alabama. She was elected to the bench in November 2018 and began her judicial duties in January 15, 2019. Judge Hatcher received a Bachelor of Science degree from Jacksonville State University in Jacksonville, Alabama in 1988, a Peace Officer Standards and Training Certificate from the University of Alabama Law Enforcement Training Academy in Tuscaloosa, Alabama in 1990, and a Juris Doctorate degree from the Birmingham School of Law in Birmingham, Alabama in 1996. She was admitted to practice law in Alabama state and federal courts in 1997. Prior to her legal career, Judge Hatcher worked for over 6 years as a deputy sheriff with the Jefferson County Sheriff's Department from 1997 to 2005. She was engaged in the solo practice of the law with a focus on family law, probate, bankruptcy, housing law, criminal law, and general civil litigation. From 2005 to 2016, she began working as a supervisor in the legal department of the Housing Authority of the Birmingham District as an associate counsel, practicing extensively in the area of housing law, real property, employment law, and contracts from 2017 to 2018. Judge Hatcher resumed a solo practice of law with a focus on general civil litigation.
State Representative Wandalyn Gavan is serving a third term for House District 60 in the Alabama House of Representatives. Representative Gavan received her bachelor's degree from Miles College and her doctorate of prudence degree from the Miles School of Law. She is the owner of Gavan and Associates law firm and That Girl Inc. She practices law and works to improve the quality of life for all citizens, fighting for civil justice and equality for all. Representative Gavan is a leader in the community and serves on several boards, including United Negro College Fund and Museum of Urban Arts. She is also an active member of the NAACP. She has received numerous awards for her tireless civic work in Alabama. Representative Gavan is a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority, Omicron Omega Chapter, and Tri-County Chapter of the Links Incorporated. She is the daughter of the late Leroy and Patricia Gavan.
Ms. Wardine Towers Alexander is a Birmingham native and proud product of the Birmingham City Schools, where she graduated from Winona High School. She also attended the University of Alabama and has a bachelor's degree in medical technology from the University of Alabama in Birmingham. Ms. Alexander represented District 7 on the Board of Education for Birmingham City Schools from 2013 to 2017, serving 2 terms as board president. She strongly believes in public education and that all students should be college or career ready upon graduation. She was appointed to the Birmingham City Council on October 30th, 2018 to represent District 7. She is presently Birmingham City Council President pro tempore and is the chair of the Utility/Technology Committee and is a member of the Administration and Budget and Finance Committees. Her top priorities for the district centers around sustainable programs that will improve public safety and economic opportunity.
Mr. Danny Carr is currently the District Attorney of Jefferson County, Birmingham Division. He became the first African-American male district attorney in Jefferson County on November 6, 2018. District Attorney Carr is a lecturer, college adjunct professor, and trainer. He is a graduate of Council Elementary School, Jackson Nolan High School, Alabama State University, and Miles College School of Law, where he currently teaches criminal law and criminal procedure. He recently instituted a theft diversion court in the Birmingham Division of Jefferson County. District Attorney Carr serves on several boards and commissions locally. He is a business owner and participates in community civic work. He has received numerous awards and featured in small business magazines. He has held a second chance job fair for convicted felons. He was voted by his peers as one of the top 100 attorneys in the state of Alabama. Finally, District Attorney Carr is a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity and member of the Rotary Club of Shades Valley.
There are multiple opportunities for you to work and engage yourself with the political scene. One of those, you could be a canvasser. You could make calls on behalf of the candidate. You can work to distribute information that's informative about the candidate. And again, you can also work as part of the research team, helping them to find out what are the issues that are important to voters in that group, 18 to 24 years old. Also, most candidates are trying to engage those voters. Now, in the last election, we saw that they were able to actually flip an entire state and change it and bring on new candidates by engaging the youth vote. So I feel that most candidates would be very excited to have someone within that 18 to 24 category participate. And even at 16 and 17, they would get an idea of what's going on in the youth community.
Then definitely what you want to do is hold that candidate accountable. Everybody needs to do that, whether you supported that candidate or you did not support that candidate. If a candidate is running for office, everybody needs to make sure that you hold that candidate accountable for the platform that they ran on and make sure that they stay true to their words and to their promises. So there's many things that you can do while you're under 18 and want to become part of a campaign. Reach out to that candidate, get to know him, and then find ways to be able to help out, because maybe one day you may want to run. This is a good way for you to learn how a campaign operates and give you a good experience. And you may just want to call that candidate up one day and say, hey, can you write a letter for me, since I worked in your campaign, to help me to get into school or help me get into an organization, fraternal or sorority or whatever organization you're looking to get into. And that candidate will probably be more than glad to write a letter for you of reference stating that you did good community service for him and for the community to help you in your career or help you get into whatever organization that you're looking to get into.
Also, during this time, you want to keep up with the past and the present current events. And be careful, though, where you get your information about these events. You want to be able to make a decision about what has happened yourself. You want to form your own opinion. So it would be good to get raw information. That's where it's not slanted. It's not opinionated. It's just what the facts are. And then you want to ask a lot of questions. Then you want to look at what really makes sense to you. How does this all fit? And if it does, you may want to also follow around those people who are in the legislature, those mayors, all the elected officials. You want to get a real feel, a real flavor of what it is all about.
I would first say volunteer as much as you can. Get involved in civic activities. Those activities can be of a political nature, where you will get involved with an organization that helps people to register to vote, or it could even be an organization that is focused on getting a candidate elected.
I think even as young people, you need to understand the relevancy of that and how important it is even today, and use that as fuel and motivation. But even prior to being of the voting age of 18, you can get active in your local races. You can make sure that you look at and consider those people who are running for office, because at the end of the day, you should want to be the voice of reasoning for the young people to make sure that they're motivated to know who's running. But at the same time, you can get involved in their race. You can consider doing canvassing door to door. You can also consider phone banking. Believe it or not, those are paying jobs as it relates to that area. And at the same time, you should also consider galvanizing your peers and the young people to make sure that they understand the importance and the power you hold as our next generation as it relates to determining who's our elected leaders.
I don't want them just to believe, okay, we once voted for a Black man to be president, Barack Obama, but there were many who came before him. You know, right now we celebrate Kamala Harris. Well, she was the first Black female elected to the vice presidency of the United States, but she wasn't the first Black woman to run. So why is the vote important? I'm glad you asked. It is important because we should remember the life of Shirley Chisholm. We should understand that she was the first Black female to run for Congress, to win Congress, and then also to run for the presidency of the United States of America. We need to understand that there were many women and men who have fought for us to have the right to vote.
one day you're going to become 18 years of age. And guess what? You get to vote at that time. And how do you get registered to vote? Because you have to register to vote, you know. So you would go to the Secretary of State website, and you know all about internet, you know all about websites. So I know you're not intimidated by going to a website. So that's the Alabama Secretary of State's website. And it has just a lot of information on how to vote. And the good thing about it, when I had to register to vote, I actually had to go to the courthouse to register to vote. And even before then, people who wanted to register to vote, they had to count beans in a jar. They had to do anything that would intimidate them and put them in a position that they would just give up and say, oh, I don't really want to vote. So you go to the website and it gives you the qualifications for voting. It says that you have to be 18 years of age and you have to be a citizen of the United States of America, and that you have not been declared mentally incompetent. So let's suppose that you don't know much about the internet though, and you just want to do it in person. Then you can go to your local courthouse and go to the Board of Registrars. And let's say, if you go to the internet, you can do two things. They have it where you can actually register online, or you can download the registration form and actually mail it in to your Board of Registrars. And it has the address to where you are to mail it.
But here in the state of Alabama, we have an app. You can go straight to an app, download the app, put it on your phone. It's called Vote Alabama. And on that app, you can sign up and they will tell you where you're registered to vote, tell you your voting precinct, tell you who are the elected officials in your area. So you get to know who represent you just because of an app that you signed up for an app. That app is very, very valuable to anybody that is voting or wanting to register to vote. So I highly recommend that you go out there and download that app and put it on your phone, whether you have an iPhone or an Android. It is called Vote Alabama. So download that app and share it with your friends. Tell your friends about it. So that way you don't have to go to the courthouse to register. You can register right there online, and all your information will be sent to the registrar's office, and you don't have to buy a stamp to send a letter in. You can do it through the app. Thank you.
And you can register to vote once you're 18, obviously, but let me tell you something that's equally more important. You can actually register to vote prior to turning 18 if you're 17 years of age, and on the date of the election, you will be 18. So you can register, and I think that's important. A lot of people miss that. So parents and young people, if you're 17 and the election is in October and you turn 18 in October, then you can register although you're 17 years of age. The law in Alabama allows that. And you can call your local board of registrars or go to the Alabama Secretary of State website and register online. And I would encourage you to make sure that that registration is not complete until you receive an acknowledgement form from the registrars that acknowledge your registration, receipt of your registration, and that your registration is complete. But one of the most important things is, remember, although you're not 18, if you're 17 and you turn 18 on the date of the election, then you can register while you're 17 and participate in our democracy when you turn 18.
Well, I'm very excited because there are several organizations within the city of Birmingham who are reaching out to our youth through their school, through their social studies, history classrooms. So you can be an advocate when those opportunities become available, I know we're challenged right now because you're not physically in the classroom, but there are a lot of organizations that are trying to come into your classroom virtually and provide you more information to make you a more educated voter, make you more aware of what's going on in the issues in the community. So I suggest when these opportunities become available, either through social groups or groups that are entering into your high school, if you would advocate and ask your classmates to join in, be an advocate for learning and wanting to be socially engaged. And I believe that, I remember when I was in high school, we always have our peer group. And so the more that we see that our peers are involved, the more we'll be able to get that message and get people engaged. I really feel that education is the key. My mother always said, knowledge is power. And the more knowledge that you have about an issue, about an opportunity, then that helps you to become knowledgeable and powerful among your classmates. They will look to you as someone to go to for that information. So the key then, again, is being knowledgeable, understanding the issues, and then discussing them with your friends. Sometimes when you're just sitting there chatting, you might bring up a social issue or something that's going on in their neighborhood. And this might help to get them engaged in wanting to make a difference. I firmly believe in being a solution to problems, not just discussing the problems, but how to become someone who becomes a solution to it. And one of those is by community engagement, community activism, and again, just being powerful with the amount of knowledge you have.
Get involved. I started as a young student at Miles College under the tutelage of my professor, the late, great Dr. Abraham Woods, who was actually the president of the SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And he made it was every day. We had to discuss the current events. We had to get involved. We had to understand the debate process. We had to do mock debates. We had to understand those issues that were in controversy, not just here in the state of Alabama, but also across the country. Go and meet your local elected officials. Go meet the mayor. Ask for a meeting. Meet your state legislators. Know who they are. Meet the district attorney here in Jefferson County or anywhere else in the state. Meet your sheriffs. Get a chance to know your judges other than if you get arrested or if you're going through some type of legal matter. Get involved. Their doors are accessible. Or if they're not, then you know what to do when it's time for you to vote. But we are public servants. These seats that we serve, they're not our seats. These are the people's seats. They elect us. They give us our job. They give us our mandates, and that is our role. So you have earned your right to call your elected officials to say, may I please have an appointment with you? I would like to get to know you. I would like to know more about what you do. And not just then, not just now, but when they're running for office. Go to the public forums. Go to the debates. Sit down and engage with them. Call them or call their people. Then when you get ready to make up your mind about the vote and getting registered to vote, hey, it's understood. I've learned the process. I've studied my current events. I've learned some history. I've met some of the candidates. I want to be a part of that process. And that's what I did when I was a young student, growing up, going to Miles College, going to Miles School of Law. And then even after that, in my professional life, again, be an advocate, be a voice, be the voice, vision, and leadership that the people need you to be. And when you get ready to make that decision, you'll make the best decision that is right for you and the service that you want to provide as an advocate and as a voice. By and through your vote.
And you can help your fellow students become registered as voters by, number one, being that voice for them. In other words, encouraging them, making sure they understand the importance of voting, making sure they understand that when there's a reason why people died and bled for the right to have a voice. And if you don't register to vote, even once you turn the age of 18, then you're voiceless. So you have to be willing to step out and recognize and understand the right that you have in our democracy to vote. And I also want to say this for the young people as well. You can utilize social media to motivate your young friends to vote. You just have to be informed about the information that you receive and take in. Make sure it's legitimate information, but at the same time, make sure that you educate yourself about the information that you're putting out. But one of the biggest tools for young people to galvanize your friends that's in your circles is to use social media as a tool to make sure you encourage people to vote, encourage your friends in your circle to vote, and encourage them if they have family members who hadn't registered to make sure that they make that a family outing and vote as well. Because at the end of the day, you have a right to participate in a democracy that so many people were denied years ago. So exercise their right, benefit from the blood, sweat, and tears that people before you left on the Pettus Bridge, Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, and make sure that you vote.
Of course, we know that this government that we live in affects us all. And so you are affected. There are issues that I know you would be interested in. And so just help get those issues out in the community and encourage your friends to go and register to vote so that their vote will be counted and they will have a voice in the political process.
My duty is to enforce laws, but I want to make sure that we enforce good laws, laws that are meaningful to us. So each and every day we look to try to see if there's laws that we can have reform with. So we contact our legislators and we ask them, can they make changes to certain laws? Laws that have been on our books for over 100 years sometimes need to be updated or changed. So for me in my position, we want to make sure that we work smart and not hard. We want to make sure that we're doing the best thing for the community, putting our resources toward cleaning the community up, going after and targeting those that are harassing the community, and not just little small crimes, but crimes that really causes problems in the community. And if we can clean those crimes up, we can have a community in which those that live there can sit on their front porch and drink coffee and talk to their neighbors and read their newspaper and not worry about people driving down the street, shooting guns and throwing out litter. They can have a good time and enjoy their property and enjoy their neighbors right in their neighborhood because we have laws and we are able to enforce good laws each and every day in the communities in which we live.
I didn't get interested in politics just to become this political or elected official. I was interested in politics from the very first time that I voted. Even just being a citizen, we all should be interested in politics. And so I was concerned about what was going on around me, things that affected my family. And so I wanted to make sure that I was involved in the political process by registering to vote and making my voice count.
I had parents who were educators within the city of Birmingham, and they worked with students. And they felt that the service you provided to a community is very important to shaping your character. And so they always encouraged me to become involved, even as a teenager, many, many years ago. And in 2012, I became involved in an election for the school board because I found that in the work that I performed, often there were not people that were qualified to obtain those positions. So I thought, let me go out and work with the school system to be sure that we put programs in place, dual enrollment, the career academies, wanting to be sure that our residents are educated so that they can have a good quality of life by being employed. So I decided to seek appointment to the Birmingham School Board. I was appointed, then I actually was elected and had that opportunity to serve as president of the school board. So again, it started with what I saw was a need in the community and wanted to be sure that residents, my neighbors, we could meet the job requirements and meet workforce development. So it's just that simple in having that desire to bring about a change in my community. So after serving on the school board, I did go up for re-election. I didn't win, but I didn't stop at that time. I continued to be engaged in the community, working with organizations like the Links chapter other organizations, becoming a member of a board. I also thought that gave me an opportunity to see you don't always succeed, try again. And now I'm Councilor Pro Tem on the City Council. So once that position became available, I also went out and sought appointment for that. I didn't stop. I didn't let that loss of that school board election stop me. And so then I sought to become a member of the Birmingham City Council. I've served now since 2018, and I look forward to continuing to serve again in another term.
It comes down to the question, how did I first get involved in politics? And what I did was, I knew I wanted to be a judge. And so there are different kinds of judges. There are judges who are appointed. There are judges who are elected. And so I wanted to be a state judge, so I had to be elected. So I decided to run for office. And I tell you, meeting all of the different people, that was my most favorite part. And going to all of the different events, you really didn't know how many events happen in like the state of Alabama or the county of Jefferson until you become a candidate, because you're expected to be at everything. And then you learn so much. You learn so much about people, cultures, because you got to get out of your comfort zone. And another thing, my most favorite thing about holding an elected office such as a judgeship, I get to serve people. And I get to make sure that decisions are made that are fair to all. And I get to make sure that the laws are applied to each one of us in an equal manner.
Hi, my name is Jordan Hudson, and I will be introducing Shaping Our State, an organization that mission seeks to encourage young women of color to vote and run for office through their animated video series. Today, we'll be watching their video, Where's the Urgency?
I'm 19 years old, and I'm from Montgomery, Alabama.
I'm from Sylacauga, Alabama.
I'm from Prattville, Alabama.
I'm 20 years old, and I'm from Auburn, Alabama.
Something that sticks in my head right now is that our prison system has been ruled unconstitutional. Like, people should not be forced to live inside a place that the Department of Justice is like, it's a no from us. Like, that's the top dog. If they're like, it's not safe, people shouldn't be forced to be there, I'm not sure where our urgency is. And I feel like that about education. I feel like that about a lot of our issues, healthcare, voting access, where I'm like, where is the urgency? We see people make fun of Alabama for this all the time. We also see the very real ways it plays out with people we know. And why don't we love our neighbor enough to want to do right by them, to want them to be able to vote, to want whoever has a family member who's incarcerated to be in a better system? I don't see that urgency a lot. I see people very content to say we are doing well and that is fine by me. And I think that goes directly against so many of the best things about the South and the best things about the state of Alabama. So I would love to see us care about one another enough to say I'm infuriated by this, even though it does not touch me personally. I don't think we should have to wait for that moment of I have a family member in jail, or I have a child going to school, or I personally haven't been able to get my absentee ballot sent to my house to care about it.
Judges hold a lot of control that affects all of us. State judges are elected by everyone in Alabama, but local judges are elected by voters in their specific area. Most of the legal matters that occur in your community will be handled in those local courts, municipal, district, or probate. What's stopping you from being a lawyer or a judge and practicing in your hometown? Check out Alabama YMCA Youth Judicial. It's a 3-day mock trial competition for high school students. Take the pledge to register to vote when you turn 18. Because once you realize what's at stake, you know it's up to you. You shape this world with your attention, your votes, and your actions.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shaylin Allen, and I attend Hoover High School. Thank you for participating in the first part of our program. In a moment, we will transition to the second part of our program using the Zoom platform. First, let's hear from people who have worked incredibly hard to put this program together for you and me. I'll be right back.
Hi, I am Samuetta Hill Drew, and I am this year's chairperson for the Tri-County Youth Empowerment Explosion. And I'm here to say thank you. Thank you for sharing your time with us today. And we certainly hope that it was well spent and that you enjoyed it, because we certainly enjoyed putting it together for you. This year, we did something a little different. Not only did we have our link members, but we included some high school students from around Jefferson County, and we did listen to them. And we wanted to make sure that we had something that we thought would help empower you as teens, not only today, but into the future. We wanted to say thank you to all of our participants, to all of our planning members on the committee, to our president, and especially to all the members of the Tri-County chapter of the Links Incorporated for their support. But again, thank you. And certainly we hope that this has been a valuable experience for you.
Good afternoon. I am Barbara Allen, Chair of the Services to Youth Facet. The main focus of our facet is youth empowerment. It is our goal to provide students with the opportunity to interact with and become inspired by informative and thought-provoking discussions and presentations by elected officials and professionals who will challenge them to become successful and productive citizens. Today's Youth Explosion is an example of such activity. On behalf of the President and members of the Tri-County Alabama chapter of the Links Incorporated, thank you for your participation, and we ask that you please complete the programming survey that will be emailed to you in the next few days. Can we count on you to complete that survey? Thank you.
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 Hi, everyone. I'm back. Don't leave, because once you enter the Zoom, we will have 3 door prize drawings for $50 Amazon gift cards at the end of each breakout session. At the very end, we will give away a $75 gift card. Be sure to look for your name on the prize wheel. As we move into the Zoom, here's how you will navigate through the breakout sessions on the Zoom platform. We will have 4 breakout sessions, and each of you will randomly be assigned to 2 of the breakout sessions. We will all meet in the lobby of the Zoom, then be assigned to a breakout room. After the completion of the first session, you will return to the lobby and receive your next assigned breakout room. We trust these signed sessions provide us with the necessary skills to break barriers and keep rising over obstacles that we may encounter. These are the topics for the breakout session. Bad Bougie and Not Broke will deliver money management tips. Bloom and Grow will provide us with approaches for development and life goals. Ball of Confusion will offer strategies for coping, and We Are the World will provide us with global perspective and how we blend in the global society. But remember not to leave, because we have the prizes drawings after each session. Here's what I need you to do. Click the button at the bottom of the screen. Have fun.